金色ラブリッチェ。
It had been a week since I'd become quote-unquote lovers with Elle. Now that the initial shock had died down, the others had started to treat our relationship as if it were only normal. From what we saw on Twitster, word had begun to spread of Elle's new relationship, and the peep shots had all but stopped. We couldn't let our guard down yet, but it was probably safe to assume we'd achieved our first goal. As for fencing, it was going fantastically. That obviously went for Elle, but her spiritedness spurred the other members' enthusiasm in kind. From what I'd heard, their stellar performance had made it difficult to choose who would participate in the competition, and their advisor cried out with delight from the sidelines. As for me,
全然ダメ。やる気あるの市松。
yeah.
ちょっと打ち合ってみるわよ。ふぬけてたら校庭ダッシュさせるから。
Well, I guess that means I can't lose. Ah. What do the rules say you should do when you knock your opponent's weapon away?
1週間で私らより強くなったかも。私らが下手なのを差し引いてもすごいね。でも全然ダメ。顔がダメだし、なんかダメ。なんとなく。
Sure. This was getting relatively easier. A lot had changed recently. Hey. It's been a while, huh?
そっちあんまり屋上来なくなったからな。
Yeah, since I'm dating Elle.
もう来なくていいぞ。
Her cool-headed nature made me feel kind of alienated. Surely you could tell that it wasn't especially awkward between us, just that we'd had fewer opportunities to meet up and hang out. That was mostly due to my spending so much time with Elle lately.
お待たせしました。
Why don't we head back? Having her stop by on the way home had also become routine. I wonder what we're having today.
あまり期待されても困りますが、ベーコンを燻製にしておいたのです。今日はこれで。
Oh, smoked! Exotic!
あとシシャモも。日本ではシシャモはおかずだそうですので、白米と一緒に食べましょう。
Sounds great. I've never had smoked shishamo before. Seems fishy to me though. Shishamo is more like an appetizer than a side dish.
シシャモが魚なのは言うまでもないのでは？
Haha. Our conversation remained light and breezy all the way home. And?
ではシャワー借りますね。
Sure. Her bathing at my place had also become part of our routine. It was because of Elle's presence that we'd added a new appliance to the dorm. Specifically, a blow dryer. I'd never owned such a trendy gadget before, but I bought the one Heroina picked out for me. It was on Sortilege's dime though. The overall style of the hairdryer seemed more appropriate for a woman, but I didn't especially mind it, given that it would primarily be used by a woman.
いただきました。
Yeah. Elle had gotten into the habit of taking a shower here. And at this point she'd gone so far as to bring a change of clothes with her. And... make yourself comfortable over here then.
え？
We needed to fry the smoked bacon first before we could eat dinner, but we had a few minutes before that was necessary. Time to dry her hair. I gently brushed her hair with a comb and swept the air from the blow dryer through it, just like Heroina had taught me. Even though Elle honestly could have done this on her own, neither of us brought it up. Both of us had fun doing it, and we'd come to an unspoken understanding. A sweet fragrance wafted from Elle's clean body, and the wind from the dryer sent it whirling into the air. As such, her golden hair flowed freely behind her. Her hair had an almost silk-like quality as I brushed my fingers through it. Your hair really is beautiful.
そうですか？この1週間で朝櫛の滑りが良くなった気がします。オーロのおかげでしょうか。
That's because I'm doing as much as I can on a technical level. I made sure to do some level of research to prevent her hair from getting damaged.
それに何より気持ちいい。オーロの指はとても気持ちがいいです。
Same here. Touching Elle's hair felt wonderful. How should I put this? Our time together felt rich. It was just the two of us. Was it because we were pretending to be boyfriend and girlfriend? I wasn't sure. Besides, for today...
あら、なんだか美味しそうな香り。
Welcome! We couldn't be alone forever. This was the day Mina-chan would come over to eat. We decided to call it good now that her hair was dry and ate dinner. It was oddly embarrassing to be completely alone with Elle, so having Mina-chan come over once in a while helped to set a better tone. Namely, because we could say we weren't having dinner alone together, but rather we are only alone since Mina-chan couldn't make it. Was I being too self-conscious?
本日はあら、燻製また手のかかることを。でもご飯ありですのね。ちょうどよろしくてよ。
Mina-chan brought something along to contribute to dinner in her own way.
本日はおみおつけを持ってまいりましたの。
What's that?
おみおつけ？
Miso soup. What great timing. Going with the Japanese-themed dishes had panned out well today.
先日、1年は調理実習がございまして、初めて作りましたの。おみおつけ自体初めていただいたけれど、感動しましたわ。日本のスープは侮れませんわね。味噌スープのことをおみおつけというのですか？知りませんでした。漢字で書くとすごいんですのよ。おみおつけ。最初冗談かと思いましたわ。
That's surprising trivia even for Japanese people. I opened the lid. A wonderfully tranquil aroma wafted outward. The smell. Red miso soup?
赤7白3です。この配合がベストだと教わりましたわ。だしはカツオと昆布を5対5。具にはネギとお揚げ。お豆腐も欲しかったですけど、残念ながらこの量では手に入りませんでした。
Didn't sound like she could get that much of an assortment through delivery. Pretty outstanding though, her obsession with the broth and miso that was. Even the majority of Japanese people got by with instant these days. It sure has been ages since I've had miso soup. Thank you for the meal. We promptly took our seats and put our hands together. First, the miso soup. Ha.
いかがです？
Ha.
感想を言いなさいな。
This is my impression. You don't compliment miso soup with a hearty delicious. A good ha is the most impressive impression miso soup can get.
なるほど。日本のわびさびですわね。オーロ、こっちはどうでしょう？
Oh, sorry. Rice, miso soup, and an assortment of side dishes. Given this spread, I just so happened to start with miso soup for whatever reason. I moved along to the side dishes Elle made, specifically the stir-fry of smoked bacon and spinach. Amph. Yeah, delicious.
よかった。あらあら。
Smoked food really is nice on occasion. It's amazing how much better it tastes too. Wow, the shishamo and eggs are outstanding.
あら、ほんと。いいの引きましたわね、ロイナ。妃殿から良いという魚屋さんを聞いて行ってみました。目利きには多少自信があります。
Wow.
わざわざ買いに？
You're awesome, Elle. You can tell that the fish is really high quality.
はい。行軍中は食料確保も大切ですので、自然と食材の良し悪しが頭に入ってしまうのです。
Wow.
食いつくところはそこじゃありませんでしょう。鈍いですわね。
It's a little far, but there's a gigantic marketplace where you can get fish wholesale at Hamamatsu Lake. Why don't we go there next time? Knowing you, I'm sure you'll spot something fantastic.
お任せください。
Looking forward to it. Right, Mina-chan?
はあ、はいはい。そうですわね。鈍ゲロ。
Huh? I wonder why she upgraded or downgraded me.
まだまだあります。たくさん食べてください。
Of course. We shared another lovely dinner together. Thanks a bunch for the meal. We cleaned up the remnants of our dinner. It was around 8 o'clock. When Mina-chan returned to her dorm room, leaving Elle and me alone. Did we have any homework or anything today?
特には。あ、今日の授業の復習でもします？私教えますが。
Well, I'm all set on that.
そうですか。
Time seemed to slow down to a crawl. Normally, she would start getting ready to go home around this time of night. After all, she hadn't given up her role as Sylvie's attendant, and she needed to get back to her professional responsibilities. However, I'd heard Sylvie was visiting some sick patient at the hospital as part of her princessly duties today. Other members of the Imperial Knights were assigned as Sylvie's bodyguards, and that left Elle to do as she wished during that time. As such, that meant she could stay here longer. I wouldn't have minded if she decided to go home, but she remained planted in place and didn't get up to leave. I wasn't about to rush her out the door either. Not because I had anything I wanted to talk about. Heck, I'd been hard-pressed to come up with any topics of discussion for a while now. Even so, the silence didn't feel awkward in the slightest. In fact, I'd love it if this comfortable silence continued. But...
Heroina!
Mina-chan, who had left half an hour ago, rushed her way in.
いかがされました？あなた、お姉様の護衛の引き継ぎ、エキスナにやっておくよう任せましたでしょ？はい、それが何か？エキスナが旧来の騎士隊配分で調整したせいで、何人か私とお姉様で10時がブッキングしてますわ。さっきから確認の電話がうるさいです。エキスナが？おかしいな。新しいものに変えたはず。言い訳は結構。責任者はあなたでしょ？シスア家に知られたらことですわよ。楽団員が騒ぎ出す前に調整してらっしゃい。は、申し訳ありませんでした。
Elle reverted to her usual self, gave me a signal with her eyes, and rushed out of the room. So that's how our date was going to end, huh? What a shame. If that were the case, is something wrong with Elle?
どうもしませんわ、エロイナは。ただエロイナがお姉様の護衛を任せた部下が配置図をちょっと勘違いしましたの。
Ah, so it's not like Elle herself messed up. The same as last time?
部下のミスはエロイナのミスです。
She's so strict.
些細な伝達ミスです。今この瞬間、私やお姉様にテロリストが襲ってきたら大問題に発展しますが、でなくば問題はありません。が、シスア家の王女私に従事する人間をお姉様に回した。この構図が成り立つのは事実。騎士院派にとってはあまりよろしくない事態であることは間違いございませんわね。
Huh? What did she mean? Aren't the knights close to you and the other members of the royal family? That was my guess based on what she was saying. The look on Mina-chan's face momentarily suggested I said something uncalled for and...
仲が良くないという表現はそぐいませんわね。騎士院は私にとって重木、家臣ですもの。まあ、であっても、大人の世界というものは他人のミスには厳しくできているものなのです。お子様には分からなくて結構ですわ。
I'm older than you, though.
あらそう、忘れてましたわ。
Grrr.
もう少し年上になれたら細かい事情も話して差し上げますのに。
You were so cute when you went Oni-chan, Oni-chan the other day too.
古い話はおよしなさい。
The conversation went off the rails from there. Even though Mina-chan didn't share everything with me. It seemed as though Elle, the Imperial Knights, and the royal family weren't as close as Elle and Sylvie themselves were. So the royal family visits sick patients at the hospital and stuff too?
王室の本質は弱者の救済よ。経済も、そして心も。偉いでしょう。
Super impressive.
でも、昨日は大変だったわ。日本人は元気がないって言うけれど、日本の病院の子供たちはものすごく元気よね。
Ah, yeah, energy is one thing children have, even when they are sick.
ねえ、オーロ。私はね、10歳からピアノを始めて、次の誕生日にはもうプロも顔負けと言われたほどの神童の名を欲しいままにしたピアニストだったの。だから誰かに褒められることには慣れきっているの。ここ数年私が演奏をして拍手喝采にならなかった場はなかったのよ。
Are you bragging? I was sure it was true.
でもね、それでも私まだ褒められ足りなかったみたいよ。
Did yesterday not go well?
うまくいったのよ。慰問して主催者の言うようピアノ演奏をプレゼントして、演奏自体は完璧だったの。でもあの子たちポカーンとしてたの。その後お遊びで弾いた猫踏んじゃったの方がみんな盛り上がっていたの。あんな人差し指だけでピンポンやるので。
Kids might be too young to appreciate classical.
我ながらプライドが高かったみたいね。私こんなにプライドを傷つけられたのは初めてよ。
Well, hey, that's not such a bad thing. Then.
おはようございます。
Morning. Oh. That was when I noticed Elle had shown up to school much later than Sylvie. Even though they often went home separately, they always came to school together every morning. What could have happened?
試験。
She stifled her yawn. This too was unusual. She was usually so on point.
やっぱり眠い？昨日はお疲れ様。
いえ、私の失態でした。ご迷惑をおかけします。
Oh, yesterday. Did you have a hard time resolving that miscommunication issue?
報告書の山よ。別に焦らなくていいのに、エルったら昨日一晩で終わらせようとするから。
詳細を記録するには時間を空けないことが肝要ですから。
Her response suggested she didn't get enough sleep last night. So, how did everything go afterward with assigning the guards or whatever it was? I had only gotten a half-hearted explanation from Mina-chan. Elsa didn't sound like she wanted to elaborate much either, but I could lean on our happy-go-lucky princess at times like these.
大したことではないわ。そのままミナの警護をしているはずの人間が私の警護も命じられて連絡が混乱しただけ。すぐに増員して両方の警護は抜かりなかったから、問題と呼べる問題は出ていないわ。その分始末書の束が配置の責任者である L だけに行ってしまったというだけ。
不覚です。今後気をつけねば。
もう L のミスではないんだから気にしても仕方ないわ。お疲れ様とは思うけど。
Coupled with what Mina-chan told me yesterday, there didn't appear to be any issues. Just assorted discord between the aforementioned knights and the royal family and so forth. All of which I'd love to ask more about, but... Elle looked tired, but was putting in an effort not to let it show. I would feel sorry for her, especially if I pried any further, so I decided against it.
今日のお昼はまた音楽堂に行くわ。昨日が猫踏んじゃっただった分、思いっきり弾くの。
わかりました。
Even if they came and went to school separately, Elle was glued to Sylvie until club started that afternoon. They were obviously together during lunch break too, and so? Eating lunch while listening to the piano? That does sound nice.
ようこそシルビア音楽祭へ。
It was the three of us today.
姫様、そんなもしゃもしゃ食べるのははしたないかと。い
いの。
Sylvie practically inhaled her food. And entertained herself with the piano all she liked. I ate my meal while listening to the comforting timbre. Elle shrugged and dug into her lunch. Oh, Elle, did you use yesterday's bacon for that sandwich?
ええ。食べますか？
Yay! Should I share some of mine to pay you back? I made homemade sandwiches too, oddly enough.
おお、これはコンビーフ。それにマヨネーズですか。しかも野菜は一枚も挟まないのですね。
An ally of the fat and unhealthy. I call it the junk sandwich.
美味しそうです。
We shared our meals with each other. We had been having dinner together for a week already. It felt familiar even if we were eating lunch instead. I enjoyed eating lunch with Elle as well as Sylvie's impromptu recital. Sylvie must have been frustrated after yesterday, as she played for almost 20 minutes straight. It was like she'd released all of the musical tension that had been built up inside of her. The fact she had memorized all of that sheet music and could effortlessly play it on a whim was impressive in its own right. Even after we finished our meals, we had no desire to move and remained planted in our seats. And then? Oh. The tune suddenly changed. What was this song? Compared to the other pieces she'd played, this one had a much quieter yet comforting tone. Almost like a lullaby? Ah. It went without saying.
うん。
Elle slumped over and leaned against my shoulder. Sylvie smiled as her fingers drifted across the piano's ivory keys.
久しぶりね。エルがこんなに好きだらけなんて。
Really? Now that the performer had spoken up, it seemed the temporary no-talking ban had been lifted, and we spoke in hushed whispers.
私を警護してるはずの時間帯に寝ちゃうなんて初めてじゃないかしら。
Huh. True enough, she was the only knight around Sylvie at the moment. It would be a pretty huge issue to nod off from something so minor. She really was cute.
でも変わらないといえば変わらないかも。小さい頃は逆にすぐ寝ちゃってたのよね。私がピアノの練習をするときよくそばにいてくれたのだけれど、聞いてるうちすぐに。
Wasn't that because of how good you were at playing the piano?
にしてもよ、ビバルディとかドボルザークとか結構激しい曲でもすぐスヤスヤだったんだから。
That's just how it goes when you're a kid. I believe Sylvie said she started playing when she was 10 years old, which meant Elsan was 11. Still young enough to have no composure when you would listen at recitals.
名誉のために言っておくと、それ以外はいつも気を張ってるコチコチではあったのよ。ピアノの演奏会の時だけは特別。おお。でも、そっか。
ん？
そんなだから、エルの寝顔を知ってるのは私だけだったのに、 今オーロに知られちゃったなって。
Now that she mentioned it, when I looked to my side, Elle's ordinarily awe-inspiring expression was childishly vulnerable. Elle's sleeping face. I might be witnessing a rare sight.
エルが私以外に取られちゃったか。私だけのエルだったのに。
Her voice was quieter than the piano, so I couldn't hear her. What was it? I tried to listen, but...
なんだかムカついてきたわ。
Huh?
ほらエル、起きなさい、エル。
Sylvie? The comfortable melody suddenly turned emphatic and disturbed Elsan's slumber.
なかなか起きないわね。昨日よっぽど寝不足なのね。
You're not going to let her sleep at least through lunch break then?
あげない。
I didn't know what she was upset about, but Sylvie made no attempt to stop. Elle woke up.
シル、うるさい。もうちょっと寝かせて。
Syl?
あれ？あ、しまった。ついうとうと。
一瞬だけうとうとしてたわね。ちゃんと聞いてなさい、エル。
すいません。
Sylvie went back to playing again. She had been too focused on the piano to have heard it, but... Syl. It appeared the princess had an even more childish nickname. I wondered how long they had known each other. It sounded like they were already together by age 10, but something told me they knew each other long before then. Incidentally, the orchestral faction, was it? The Sortilège royal family was supposed to refine their musically related knowledge from a young age. But wouldn't age 10 be just a little late?
カバレロ様、なんだか今日は調子が悪いみたい。お恥ずかしい。何かありまして？やはり市松が原因？殺しましょうか？
I'm right here, you know.
ただの寝不足です。お気になさらず。
そうですか。では。え？寝不足？まさかそういうこと？ついに一戦を？
どうしたのです一体？
They seemed to suspect something. You really do sound sleepy. She'd played off a ton of yawns as sighs for a while now. What do you want to do for dinner tonight? Maybe it'd be best to head home early and rest?
いえ、大丈夫。作りに行きます。このまま。
Listen.
食べてほしいのです。
Ah.
迷惑でしょうか？
No, really? Feel free to help yourself.
はい。
We walked along the usual path as she made that immensely impactful comment. By the way, what's on tonight's menu?
用意の時間がなかったので、パスタにしようと思います。昨日のベーコンもまだあるので。
Yeah, for sure. When you hear bacon, you really do think pasta.
日本ではカルボナーラでしたっけ？ホワイトソースと合わせるのが人気なのでしたか？
I'm not really picky, so anything works. Whatever's easiest for you to make.
はい。
Conversations like this had become perfectly natural, but also felt a little like one newlyweds might have. Well, we were lovers, so I guess it was fine. And the course of the conversation led us to... Oh yeah, about when you fell asleep this afternoon.
はい、油断しました。
She looked embarrassed. The way Elle was more concerned about leaving herself open than the newlywed variety of conversation was so like her. You called Sylvie Sil, didn't you? When you were half asleep.
嘘、本当ですか？ああ、やってしまった。私としたことが。
I think it's fine, honestly. Is it an issue because of your work relationship?
もちろんです。お使いすべきお方に、そんな、もう。
Elle was in unusually low spirits. But the way I saw it, Sylvie didn't seem to mind it, so what's the harm? There's no real difference whether you refer to her as Sil or Sylvie. It didn't change the fact that it was still a nickname. Or so I thought.
いえ、違います。その2つは、少なくとも私とシルビー様には意味合いがだいぶ違うのです。
How so?
シルビー様と呼ぶのは、王女たるシルビア様が気を許してくださったことの賞賛。しかし、シルはそれ以前の呼び方ですので。
Before? Wait.
私があの方にお仕えする前、私とあの方の昔の関係です。だから、それを思い出すわけにはいかないのです。
I didn't really understand what she was getting at. But that was when we reached the dorm, so our conversation got cut short.
どうぞ。
Oh! Tonight's meal was simple, so it came out in no time. Elle had prepared an instant pottage soup with a side salad and the spaghetti dish she'd mentioned previously. The spaghetti, what's it like? Something high class?
え？普通にベーコンとキャベツですが。
It doesn't have a name?
名前と言われましても、ありもののパスタです。
Japanese people just have too many fantasies about pasta. In Japan, you could throw any random seasonings and vegetables together into a don bowl and call it a dish. But Japanese people would still want some kind of a name for a pasta dish like this. Mediterranean-style spaghetti with smoked bacon, charred cabbage, and white pepper. Try introducing it like that.
はい。
In a kind of hoity-toity way. This is spaghettini with smoked bacon and charred cabbage, garnished with Mediterranean-style white pepper, like that.
ベーコンヌとキャベツンヌって何です？まあいいか。こちら燻製ベーコンと焦がしキャベツのスパゲティ、ホワイトペッパー風味になります。
Oh, I bet you could score 2,500 yen with this alone.
よくわかりません。
Time to dig in.
おら、音を立てて食べるのははしたないです。
Mina-chan scolds me for that all the time too. But Mina-chan wasn't here today. Japanese people seriously do slurp loudly though. That's just what feels right with noodles.
そういえば、ラーメンはそうすると聞きますね。シルビー様が羨ましがっておりました。
Sylvie still can't slurp ramen?
難しいです。日本の方がどうしてあんな、こう、ズゾゾって食べれるのでしょう。
Well, that's kind of in our DNA. You did hear all the time how foreigners couldn't slurp their noodles. Besides, slurping is only a part of commoners' culture. I've heard nobles can't do it either, even in Japan.
そうなのですか？
Noodle slurping originated with soba. It was an impression the citizens of Edo got from growing up treating it as fast food in Kanto soba culture especially. Soba had been called the greatest fast food in Japan, and especially in the Edo period. It was apparently the sort of food where you could eat a helping in half a minute. That was the process by which the act of slurping came about, so that it could be eaten more quickly. It was established as part of our culture at this point, but if you traced back to its origins, it was the improper sort of etiquette unseemly middle-aged men might practice at construction sites and the like.
へえ、元はお蕎麦。
Another fun theory is that the habit leaped to ramen due to the influence of manga in the 70s and 80s. Slurping was the intrinsic soba-eating pattern of a ramen lover by the name of Koike-san, created by the two geniuses F and A. And so the eating style naturally stuck to ramen. That was also why the custom of slurping wasn't associated with udon, but there are numerous theories. Of course, this was pointless trivia.
面白いのですね。実は私、お蕎麦というものを食べたことがありません。
For real?
はい、興味はあるのですが。
True. Soba does fit into a pretty fine category. It was neither high class nor working class sort of dish. Unless you thought to yourself something like, I could sure go for some soba, it wasn't the sort of thing you would run into unanticipated. Foreigners didn't seem all too familiar with it. Want to get soba with me sometime then? Together, obviously.
いいですね。二人で。
It almost sounded like it were second nature. It's a date.
そうと決まれば、そのすするの練習をしなくては。
Don't force it so much. And actually, you shouldn't slurp pasta. You eat it quietly, like this.
ずるい。
These meals together had become so familiar to us. And it was another delicious meal at that. Now then, with that... Oh, what are you going to do for your shower today? The thought had just occurred to me. Elle had prepared a simple pasta dish, so it didn't take long for us to eat. She would typically shower at my place to kill time while we waited for dinner to cook. She hadn't had time today, so she hadn't bathed yet. Heck, all that was left was for her to head home, as there was no real reason for her to use my shower, but...
では今日もお借りします。
Sure. Elle headed to the bathroom like it was part of her usual routine. The more I thought about it, the more bizarre it seemed. But it didn't feel that way to us anymore. Which was why once she got out, I got the hairdryer ready without a second thought.
よろしくお願いします。
Sure. Elle walked toward me as if this scenario were only natural. She took a seat on the bed. I turned on the dryer and proceeded to dry her hair. We'd grown accustomed to this. However, no matter how familiar it may have felt, her sugary sweet aroma always made my heart race uncontrollably. What was our relationship at this point? We were pretending to be lovers, right? It's not like we were actually dating. Even though we were close, even though she let me touch her glistening hair, that didn't mean I was special to her. Ah. All of a sudden, Elle bumped into me. I quickly pulled the dryer away from her. Elle's warm, defenseless back pressed back against me. Elle. Again? Once again, she'd fallen asleep. And leaned against me. Elle had eaten a lot during both instances, so it made sense why she'd fall asleep. Elle? It didn't look like she was going to be waking up anytime soon. Hoo boy, I turned off the hairdryer. It would be a shame to wake her, so maybe I should just leave her be. I certainly didn't mind having Elle cuddled up against me, but... Slide. I slowly pulled her away. Now that we were separated, I gently eased her into bed. We probably could have cuddled for a little bit longer, but... No, no, knock it off me. I may not have been a noble, but I was a gentleman. For instance, a very vulnerable-looking Elle was laid out before me, dead asleep. And if my hand just so happened to reach out and give one of her boobs a quick rub, then she'd probably never notice. Not happening. I draped the comforter over her. Then I left the room with my cell phone in one hand. Phew. I let Sylvie know that Elle had fallen asleep.